To commemorate someone in their final resting place, the practice regards installing a headstone as a kind of marker. They usually have the first and last name of the person, along with the date of their passing and death. Sometimes, there's an epitaph written in honor of the person who has died. But, what would you do if you wanted to keep your name in the spotlight? You might decide to go with something more elaborate than a tombstone. These 10 unusual tombs, which are spread out all over the world, are really interesting. Number 10, Russia's City of the Dead. The area around here is dotted with sets of peaked roofs and single-window brick houses surrounded by picturesque farmland and cascading clifftops. The City of Bones, also known as Dargavs, is home to the Tomb of 10,000 Bodies. There are several theories behind how the city came to be. One of the theories claims that during a plague, residents who were infected quarantined themselves in the single-window brick houses and awaited death. Number 9, Inez Clarke Monument. An odd and haunted monument of an undetermined origin. A statue of a young maiden wearing a parasol stands at the entrance to Graceland Cemetery in Chicago. Although it isn't really eerie, the statue being encased in glass is. The statue is believed to be haunted, and many accounts claim that the little girl frequently appears. Number 8. The Russian countess who wanted company in her tomb. Elizabeth Demidov is a direct descendant of a fur trader family who made their fortune in salt and minerals. She met and married the Russian Count, Nikolai Nikitich Demidov, who was a descendant of a prosperous industrialist family. Unfortunately, the marriage was a flop, and the two split up. Elizabeth departed to Paris, dying in 1818 at the age of 40. While her stint wasn't noteworthy, her final request was a little bit on the eerie side. The story goes that her relatives were surprised her will included a provision leaving millions to anyone who would spend a year and a day in close proximity to her coffin. Many people have attempted the feat in a daring attempt to get rich quick, but no one has ever completed it, even though requests continued into the 1900s. Number 7, a grave with stairs. Florence Ford got yellow fever, which eventually led to her death when she was just 10 years old. Throughout her lifetime, she feared storms, and when a storm started, she would rush to her mother for comfort. Shortly after Ford's death, the mother requested that the tomb be fitted with a small glass panel near her head. Not a tad bit creepy, only marginally bizarre. However, then the mother requested that access to the buried coffin be made by way of a narrow stairway leading down nearly 2 meters, 6 feet. Her mother also had a metal trapdoor installed at the top of the stairs so that she could shut it during a storm, protecting her from the wind and rain as she sat by her daughter reading or singing to her until the storm passed. The grave of Florence Irene Ford is located in Natchez City Cemetery at 19-27 Cemetery Road in Natchez, Adams County, Mississippi. The cemetery is also home to a handful of other notable tombs. Number 6, the tomb of Mary Ellis. Mary Ellis came to New Brunswick so she could stay with her younger sister, Margaret, in 1790, when she was still a teenager. At this time, she met and fell in love with a man who was a sea captain, rumored to be a Revolutionary War officer. The couple courted and made plans for the future. One day, the captain sailed over the Raritan River. Before he left, he gifted Mary a medal the couple designed together, as a farewell gift. So Mary waited, but the captain never returned. Mary Ellis rode the horse to the river bank where the captain disembarked every day, waiting to embrace him when he reached the shore, but he never stopped at the shore. By 1813, the captain had not returned to shore, but Mary did not stop waiting. She then purchased farmland near the river and she continued waiting there. Finally, in 1828, she died, and her family buried her near the Raritan. In the 1960s, there was a plan to build a store on Mary's property, and the woods were cleared, leaving Mary's headstone in the middle. There have been several different construction projects on the land over the years, but Mary's headstone remains untouched. Today, the lone grave of Mary Ellis sits in a parking lot in New Jersey, making it one of the most unusual tombs in the world. Number 5. The Tomb of Cyrus the Great. Pasargadae was one of the oldest known dwellings of Achaemenid monarchs, led by Cyrus the Great, who ruled Persia from 559 BC to 530 BC. The palace was like a park about 2 miles by 3 miles, 1.25 miles by 1.85 miles, containing numerous incredible buildings. According to the Roman geographer Strabo of Amasis, the palace of Pasargadae was constructed on the site of a former Persian fortress. When Cyrus the Great was buried, the tomb chamber contained a gold sarcophagus, Cyrus's weaponry, his jewelry, and his cloak. Although several centuries have passed since the tomb was originally built, and the monument is now a shadow of its former self, the tomb, however, still deserves to be remembered for its unusual design. Number 4. The Okunoin Cemetery. The Shingon sect of Buddhism that resides on Mount Koya holds a particular view of those who have passed away. While they do hold an Okunoin cemetery for the cremated, they do not consider them a place of enshrinement for the dead. Buddhism does not regard the body and soul as separate, but as a single entity that forms a united whole. The bridge to Okunoin actually serves as a boundary between worlds, and the cedar trees lining the path seem to open a barrier that welcomes you into the spirit world. A nighttime tour of the cemetery is especially creepy. Number 3. The Nubian Pyramids of Sudan. Along the banks of the Nile River is a collection of hundreds of ancient pyramids in a desert in eastern Sudan. These pyramids have been the tombs of kings and queens, rulers of the Kush kingdom for nearly 1,000 years. It is worthy to note that the Nubian pyramids are a huge attraction for Sudan's tourists. Number 2. Love Struck Even in Death. The Père Lachaise is no ordinary cemetery. Built by Napoleon in 1804, it is Paris's largest cemetery, covering over 40 hectares, 98 acres, of land. This cemetery is home to many iconic tombs and is the final resting place of many musicians, actors, writers, and performers. One of them is the tomb of Fernand Arbelot, who died in Paris, France, in the year 1942. Arbelot is remembered for his dying wish, which is that a monument be built on his grave, showing him gazing upon his wife. The tomb depicts a man lying on his back, holding up a disembodied head and gazing into its cold, stone eyes. An epitaph reads, "They were amazed at the beautiful journey which led them to the end of life." One story goes that Arbelot helped speed up the need for the monument by killing his wife and then committing suicide. Number 1. William Jeffreys got buried in a rock. William Jeffreys was elected to the North Carolina Senate in 1844 when he was 28 years old. He had a promising beginning as he came down with an infection less than a year later. During that time, his experiences were marked by hallucinations along with a full-blown phobia of being buried in the ground and being eaten alive by worms. So he told anyone who would listen that he wanted to be buried in a rock. Jeffrey first attracted people's attention because he was young, energetic, and expected to recover from an infection. But as time passed, he became weaker, casting doubt on his survival, and his parents agreed to his burial request. It took a stonemason over a year to chisel the rock out. He also created a marble slab with an inscription honoring him. Unfortunately, the slate sailed away in the night during a thunderstorm and couldn't be retrieved. Thanks for watching. To see more videos, please subscribe.